Addiction doesn't start with the first drink. It doesn't start with the first joint. It doesn't start with the first pill or the first high. Addiction begins years before that. It starts inside a scared child, inside a mind that never felt safe, inside a nervous system that learned to survive instead of live. Today, I am going to expose the truth that nobody talks about. Addiction starts with the inner child, a child who was overwhelmed, a child who was terrified, a child who never learned what safety felt like, so they searched for escape. This isn't just psychology. This is my life, my story, and it's the story of millions of others. If you truly want to understand addiction, you have to understand the broken inner child behind it. Let's begin. Every addict was once a child, and every struggling adult once lived inside a small nervous system that experienced too much, too early. Maybe that sounds familiar. Maybe you were a sensitive child, an anxious one. Maybe you were scared of conflict, or you were constantly overwhelmed by your own big emotions. Were you a perfectionist? Did you feel lonely, ignored, or constantly criticized? Maybe you were misunderstood, pressured, or just afraid to disappoint people. Perhaps you never felt truly protected. You never felt emotionally held. You learned very early on that the world was unpredictable, and so were the people in it. This is what forms the foundation of addiction, a childhood nervous system built on fear instead of safety. The adult addict is the child who never felt safe. Children don't have the same coping skills as adults. They can't say, "I'm experiencing emotional trauma right now," or "my nervous system is dysregulated." Instead, children express their trauma in other ways. They might get stomach aches, have panic attacks, cry a lot, or just completely shut down. They might be clingy or avoidant. They might just feel different from everyone else. Sometimes they become overly responsible, the good kid, or they might be the quiet one who never causes any trouble. These aren't just behaviors, these are survival strategies, and the body stores every single feeling that the mind couldn't process at the time. So what happens when someone with an unhealed inner child tries a substance for the first time? They don't just feel high. For the very first time, they feel safe. The chaos in their head quiets down. The constant fear starts to fade. The overthinking stops, that deep loneliness disappears, and the shame that's been weighing them down begins to soften. And in that moment, the inner child inside of you whispers, "Oh." So this is what safety feels like. That moment becomes the emotional blueprint for addiction. It's not about pleasure, it's not about fun, it's about escape, it's about comfort, it's about finding silence in a noisy mind, it's about finally feeling okay. Addiction begins the moment the inner child feels that temporary relief, not the moment the adult uses a substance. So you have to understand, the adult you is not the one seeking the next drink or the next high. It's the child inside you who is still terrified of abandonment and rejection. It's the child who fears judgment, loneliness, and their own emotions. A child who is scared of disappointing others and terrified of not being enough. Addiction is not a bad habit. It's a child screaming for protection. And when that child panics, you don't make rational decisions. You reach for whatever numbs the fear the fastest. This is why addiction feels so much bigger than willpower. It isn't about logic. It's about survival. Anxiety and addiction don't just coexist. They are deeply connected. The inner child who grew up anxious becomes the adult who overthinks constantly, who can't relax, who feels danger everywhere and fears the future. This is the adult who has racing thoughts at night and struggles in social situations, who panics when they feel emotionally overwhelmed. So, substances become a social mask, a numbing tool, an escape, a source of comfort. They become a break from fear, a shortcut to confidence, a sedative for that restless inner child. Anxiety is the doorway, and addiction becomes the coping mechanism. This also explains why relapse happens. Relapse isn't about craving the substance itself. It's about craving the feeling the substance gave the inner child, that feeling of safety, calmness, numbness, escape, and emotional silence. When life gets overwhelming again, the inner child inside you gets scared again, and scared children will always reach for what comforts them. This is why true recovery is not just about sobriety, it's about reparenting yourself. The truth about recovery is that it's not the adult you who heals. Recovery is not about strength or discipline or motivation. Recovery is about healing the child inside you who never felt seen, who didn't feel heard, who didn't feel loved, safe, protected, or understood. You don't heal addiction by fixing the adult. You heal it by comforting the child. The adult addict is just the inner child in pain. So, how do you heal the inner child? This is the real recovery work. First, validate the child inside you. Say it out loud. You were scared. It wasn't your fault. Second, give that child safety now. Deep breathing, grounding techniques, warm showers, slow mornings, creating a routine and predictability. These things tell your nervous system, you can relax now. Third, let yourself feel what you were never allowed to feel, the anger, sadness, fear, loneliness, and abandonment. These emotions must be processed, not numbed. Fourth, talk to yourself kindly. You need to become the parent that child never had. Fifth, build the emotional skills the child never learned. Regulation, communication, self-compassion, boundaries, and a positive inner dialogue. And finally, remind your inner child every single day, you don't need drugs, you don't need alcohol, you're safe now, I've got you. Addiction doesn't mean you're weak. It means you were once a child who tried to survive without the tools, love, or safety you needed. Addiction is not a choice. It's a child's cry for protection, and recovery is not a punishment. It's reparenting. Your inner child is still inside you, still scared, still overwhelmed, still waiting for someone to make it safe. That someone is you. You are the warrior now. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more deep healing videos. Remember, you don't heal the addiction, you heal the child who needed it.